Okay, so those of you guys who know me, who watch this channel regularly, you guys know I love movies. Good, bad, mediocre. I'm pretty easily entertained. And I talk about that quite often. I have no problem admitting that. But there's one thing that I do love above all of else, of all the other stuff, and that actually has to do with the experience of going to the theater, sitting down in a nice temperature controlled room and soft, comfy seats that recline for 2 hours. Don't have to worry about the world. Don't have to worry about anything else. That is what I like to watch. That is great to me to watch. However, I am in agreement with Collider here on this article, saying movies as we know them are probably coming to an end. And that is true. And it's been that way for quite some time. And it's actually relatively frightening because people in Hollywood, they've known about this for a long time, but they're kind of powerless to stop it given the way the current studio system works, which is one of the reasons why we're going to start to see a lot of either big tentpole films come out with the hopes of doing well or almost probably nothing at all. Experimental movies are probably dead in the context of being a big budget experimental film from not an established filmmaker with a very dedicated fan base. Reboots, remakes, sequels, reimaginings, all the stuff we complain about, that's where things are going. Why do you think Paranormal Activity 7 was announced yesterday? Because they know that it's a proven thing. Never mind the fact that Blumhouse can put out original concept that does pretty good for the minimalistic budget that it uses. But at the same time, they probably still want to make a couple easy movies that are going to pull in a lot of cash. Anyway, so this is an anecdote from Kumail Nanjiani that I feel is very poignant in regards to this conversation about movies and where things are at. Now, he says, I was at a bar with a friend who directs big movies, and while we were in line for the bathroom, he was saying that movie theaters were going to go away. He was like, kids don't watch movies, they watch YouTube, which I thought was crazy. So he goes, watch this. There was a girl in front of us in line, and he said, excuse me, what's your favorite movie? And she says, I don't watch movies. Just randomly, he picked somebody. She was like 25. She wasn't a child or anything. And we were like, well, do any of your friends watch movies? And she says, no, not really, which is, you know what? It makes sense. It does. It makes sense. He goes on to say here. Now, I don't want to sound like an old idiot because I try to keep up with what's happening on YouTube, and there's a lot of people talking to a camera, so it's very personality driven. I grew up watching Ghostbusters and Gremlins and Indiana Jones. If I had grown up watching YouTube, I don't know if I would like movies. And that is a very poignant thing for Kumail Nanjiani to say. And I agree with him. I grew up watching Indiana Jones and Ghostbusters and Goonies and all of the great 80s films that I love, that I can't wait to share with my kids. But are they going to be interested? Are they going to have the same interests I did? Nowadays, and here's the thing, nowadays, I don't go see as many movies as I'd like to go see. I see trailers and that looks pretty good. I'd like to go see a movie, but I just never make it out to the theater. Even though I love the experience I have my entire life and that's never going to go away, I have to be more picky. I have to be more choosy. There's a lot that comes out. I have to make sure that I spend my dollar wisely. Even though I review movies here on YouTube, I still don't get to see everything I want to because of constraints. It's nothing that's gifted to me. I have to pay money to go see it, therefore time. So that becomes a problem. And then I think, you know what? I can just wait for Netflix or home video. But then that becomes overwhelming as well. It does. There's so much that's going on. It ends up becoming too much. And I've talked about this in regards to movies and how they just jam-packed the summer season. But if they stretched it out, it might actually have a better impact. We're going to start seeing massive movies, these bigger movies, start to very much space out. Instead of being one a week that they're trying right now, which is failing miserably. They're going to have no choice but to maybe do one every 2 to 3 weeks or maybe one a month. And then fill the gaps with smaller films that might be able to find a home. It's going to have to go back to that. But the movie theater business as a whole is struggling. It's one of the reasons why they're going for more luxury in the experience rather than anything else. I noticed that when I lived in LA, a lot of theaters were becoming these big, luxury experiences where there's reclining seats and there's waiters and there's you could dine, you could order a beer while watching the movie, as if that's not a gigantic effing distraction for anyone else in the auditorium. But then again, if they're there, they're all there for the same reason, they're all there for the same purpose, they all have access to the same thing, so they know what they're in for. It's so weird to see where things are now. It's so weird to see what's happening. I mean, look at Marvel and re-releasing Endgame, or just updating Endgame with a few minutes of extra stuff in regards to a deleted scene and a tribute, in hopes of trying to pull in $45 million in order to beat Avatar. It's an insane play. And if you look at what he's saying here, it makes a lot of sense why they're doing it. Even though 2.7 billion is a lot of money, it's not enough. And even Ava DuVernay, who I'm not a fan of, made a comment, as she puts it, the old man yells at cloud. And that is a very true meme if you ever spend any time on the web. She says, my nieces and nephews don't really care about produced content in the way that we do traditionally. My niece can sit there and watch IGTV for hours, which is on her phone, on Instagram, and is basically little clips of nothing. That's why when I hear people being so rigid and so strict about certain forms and presentations, it just reminds me of that Simpsons cartoon, Old Man Yells at Cloud. And you know what? She's got a point there. You know, I was at VidCon last year in the Instagram panel the day after IGTV launched. And I'm not kidding you. The guy from Instagram tried to argue that vertical was the way of the future. And we all laughed at him. He's not necessarily wrong, because that's where the eyeballs are. The eyeballs are on their phone, on YouTube, on Netflix. We complain about vertical portrait mode on YouTube, but on IGTV, that's the norm. Going landscape mode doesn't mean anything when you're watching it, holding it your phone like this. So that's the problem. Movies as a whole are going to change fundamentally in the next 10 years. And it'll be very interesting to see what new voices come out, what new projects come out, what experiments, what risks are taken, because I see those becoming fewer and fewer and fewer here in mainstream America. We're going to be seeing them in other countries. And then Hollywood is just going to do what it always does, which is just, consume, reimagine, adapt, remake, re-release, and then wonder why the movies are failing instead of just dubbing them or subbing them and putting them out in theaters. It's sad to see, is what I'm trying to say. Who knows where we'll be? Who knows if people on YouTube are still going to be talking about anything other than Marvel, DC, and Star Wars, and some franchises that go to theaters in the next 2 to 3 years. If I cover anything other than those types of topics, they do not pull in as much views. They just don't. They really, really, really don't. And it has a lot to do with the fact that the people who come to YouTube that watch movies and like movie commentary are the ones who go and watch these superhero movies and these types of event films, because that's what they're interested in. There's nothing wrong with that. It just shows you where the market is. And in essence, how it's dying. But I leave it to you. Your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, type movies into the chat so I know. And be sure to thumbs up the video and subscribe. And have a good one, guys. And peace out.